Hello everybody, this is Pitch Gold Black here, and welcome back to what is the 85th and final episode of Underworld Updates, the series finale. Now, if you don't understand why I'm going to be concluding this series, or why I am concluding this series, please check out my previous video, The Evolution of Pitch Gold Black, in which I'm going to be detailing why I'm ending this series and the future plans I have for the channel. In this video today, I'm only going to be showcasing 9 books. I could showcase more if I wanted to, but I'm only going to be showcasing 9 today, as I want to focus on the rarer spectrum of the books to end Underworld Updates. Yeah, I'm going to be showcasing some pretty rare stuff in today's video, so without further ado, let us just dive right on in. Starting off, we have a limited edition Doctor Who book. Quite a rare one this, recently published. Only 400 copies were printed. That is The Lost Skin by Andy Flankham Allen. This is the 4th and currently last limited edition Candy Jar spin-off novella to the Lethbridge Stewart series that they have announced or done. At this point, I don't know if they're going to be doing any more of these novellas, and it's a nice honour to have all of them in the collection. I have the full set: Life of Evans, Flaming Soldier, Travers and Wells, and The Lost Skin. I recently read the Life of Evans, and I personally wasn't too impressed with it, so hopefully the last 3 instalments of this range will pick up. But yeah, it is lovely to have in the collection, and it is nice to have more of this wonderful spin-off range of Doctor Who books in in my collection. It's just lovely to have more of the Lethbridge Stewart range of books in the collection. It's just a fantastic range of books, and I would highly recommend the Lethbridge Stewart range of books, particularly the Great Intelligence trilogy, being The Forgotten Son, Time Squared, and Night of the Intelligence, which is just a fantastic trilogy in my opinion. But yeah, really happy to have this in the collection, and in the ultimate case of sort of weirdness, Candy Jar fucked up and accidentally sent me 2 copies of The Lost Skin for some reason, so I have 2 copies of this limited edition novella for some reason in the collection. But yeah, there we go. Lovely to have in the collection. Didn't really need 2 copies, but that's Candy Jar's fault, not mine. Moving on to the only full-length novel that I will be showcasing off in today's video. Once again, this is quite a rare book, quite sought after by collectors, and it is one of the rarest full-length Doctor Who novels published in either the BBC Past Doctor Adventure, 8th Doctor Adventure, or Virgin Missing Adventure and Virgin New Adventure line of books. Pick this up for £25 off of Amazon, and I'm very happy to have this book in my collection. This is no other than the Virgin Missing Adventure, Cold Fusion by Lance Parkin. Yes, I was quite lucky on Amazon recently, and I managed to snatch this copy of Cold Fusion for only £25. At the time, there was also a copy of The Well-Mannered War for £25, which I would have gotten as well, but that was bought by the time I could actually order the 2 books, so I just had to settle for Cold Fusion. But yeah, I'm very happy to have this book in the collection, and it's going to be an interesting thing to see the 7th Doctor and the 5th Doctor in one Doctor Who book. It's going to be a very interesting thing to see, this book, and how Lance Parkin's going to pull it off. So yeah, very curious about reading this book, and I am sort of looking forward to it. The only thing that really puts me off the book is the author's name, Lance Parkin. As you may or may not know, I have also got a copy of his Virgin New Adventure, The Dying Days, and I personally hate that book. I think it's a big piece of shit. But yeah, still happy to have this in the collection, and I will be reviewing this someday on the channel. But yeah, there we go. There was a lovely copy of Cold Fusion by Lance Parkin. Very happy to have that in the collection. And next up we have some rare 1960s era Doctor Who books. Basically, for some time down the line, as sort of one long running project, I was going to do what was essentially a reconstructed version of Underworld Updates 81, I think, the Triumph of the 60s, in which I would feature older unboxings from that video, and sort of new items in the video. But those plans for that have sort of fallen through because of all the changes I'm going to be making to this channel, and I have just decided to not do that project anymore. Don't have any more interest in doing it, and just decided to showcase off these books that I obtained for that video in this video today. So without further ado, let us begin. First two books out of this bundle of books I'm going to be showcasing actually comes from an eBay bundle. First book being a W.H. Allen hardback of The Space Museum by Glyn Jones. Yes, The Space Museum is one of the only William Hartnell stories I have only experienced once. Most other William Hartnell stories I have experienced more than once. I think the only ones that I haven't experienced more than once would be The Censorites, I think, which is a good story. The Space Museum, The Chase, trying to think what else here. The Savages and the Gunfighters, as well as the War Machines. Those are the only 6 William Hartnell stories that I have experienced only once, and I have not, and for his other 20 stories I have experienced them more than once. But yeah, this is one of my least favourite William Hartnell stories. May give it another go someday, but it's just nice to have this hardback in the collection, and it does add beef to what is an ever-growing 1960s era collection of Doctor Who books. So yeah, very happy to have this in the collection. Really nice to have, and it is a ex-library copy, but I am not too fussed. But there we go, there was a lovely W.H. Allen hardback of The Space Museum. Next up we have the ARG W.H. Allen hardback. This once again is another ex-library copy, and I obtained this and The Space Museum in one book bundle for 22 quid, which is really good price for the books in my opinion. ARC has seen better days. As you can see, there's a big chip on the spine, but I'm not too fast. I got these hardbacks for 22 quid, I'm not complaining. And once again, ARC is an ex-library. But yeah, really happy to have this book in the collection. Again, not a huge fan of the television story. It's much better than the Space Museum in my opinion. This one is sort of more of a game of two halves in my opinion, where I think the first half is really good, but I don't really like the second half at all. But yeah, really happy to have both of these Target hardbacks in my collection, and I only paid 22 quid for them. Cannot really go wrong with that. But yeah, there we go. There was 2 very nice W.H. Allen hardbacks of The Space Museum and the ARC. Right then, this is where we start to really flick the lever of rarity, in my opinion, with this video. Things are just going to get rarer and rarer, in my opinion, as this video progresses. Next up, we have a non-X library WH Allen hardback of The Savages by Ian Stewart Black. So yeah, once again, very happy to have this book in the collection, and it's nice to have the departure story of what is my favourite male companion from the 1960s era of Doctor Who in hardback form, being Stephen Taylor. So yeah, as I've mentioned in the past, I personally find that the first Doctor's era is the best for characters, and that the second Doctor's era is the best for storylines, in my opinion. And Stephen Taylor is my favourite male 60s era companion. I'm not quite sure who my favourite female companion from the 60s would be, probably Sarah Kingdom. But yeah, very happy to have this WH Allen hardback in the collection. And as I said, a similar thing with the Ark and the Space Museum hardbacks, just very nice to add beef to what is an ever-growing collection of 1960s era Target books, or Target hardbacks, and hopefully I will complete the 1960s era Target books one day. So yeah, there we go, non-X library WH Allen hardback of The Savages. Like with the Space Museum and the Ark, I purchased The Savages and this next Target hardback in one bundle. The seller listed both that non-X library hardback of The Savages and this next book in one bundle with a starting bid of $35.99, I think, and they had make an offer available, so I shot them an offer of £50 and they accepted. This next Target book being not a WH Allen hardback, a Alan Wingate hardback of Doctor Who and the 10th Planet. So yeah, sort of continuing the theme of departure stories. Once again here, very happy to have this book in the collection, and it is nice to have what is the Target hardback edition of the final William Hartnell story in the collection, kind of an honorary item to have in the collection as a 60s era fan, as it were. But yeah, very happy to have this in the collection. 10th Planet is one of my favourite William Hartnell stories. I think it is very, very underrated, personally, with regards to a story. I really like the 10th Planet a lot. It's one of my favourite William Hartnell stories. But yeah, lovely to have this Wingate in the collection. It is an ex-library, but I'm not complaining at all. I got it for a good price of 25 quid, which I personally consider to be a good price. But yeah, very nice to have this in the collection, and yeah, just really nice to have what is the final William Hartnell story in Target hardback. Once again, we continue the theme of departure stories with a non-X library WH Allen hardback of The Faceless Ones by Terence Dix. Wow, what a bargain this was. It was on the same day that the bid listing for The Savages, no, not The Savages, the Space Museum and the Ark ended, and this ended a couple hours after them. I won those two for 22 quid, and I won this thing for only a tenner. Yes, I was the only person that bidded on this book, and I scored this non-X library WH Allen hardback of The Faceless Ones for a tenner, which I'm really happy about, as The Faceless Ones is a fantastic second Doctor story, really underrated in my opinion, and this is a very, very clean condition and very good condition copy. Some sort of faint scratches to the back, chip on the spine as you can see there, quite a noticeable one. But yeah, I'm just really happy to have this in the collection. Fantastic Doctor Who story, and a really unique one for the time. because this is sort of another one of those 60s era stories, in my opinion, like the Daleks Master Plan and others, that sort of really showcased how experimental that 60s era Doctor Who was at the time, which is one of the many things that I love about 60s era Doctor Who. I mean, you're not really going to get a Doctor Who story these days about airplane personnel kidnapping children, are you? But yeah, really nice to have this book in the collection, and just fantastic. I only got it for 10 quid as well. Cannot go wrong with that at all. But yeah, there we go. There's a lovely W.H. Allen hardback of the Faceless Ones. Once again, we continue the theme of companion departures with what was one of my most wanted Doctor Who books of all time. That is a non-X Library W.H. Allen hardback, The Fury from the Deep. Very happy to have this book in my collection. If you were to have seen my recent Target review I did on this book, this is pretty much my favourite 60s era Doctor Who story of all time. I think Fury from the Deep is just an absolute masterpiece, and I will be reviewing the actual television story itself sometime in the future. It's just such a fantastic story, so atmospheric, so brilliantly characterised. It's just perfection, and it is an absolute honour to have a non-X Library W.H. Allen hardback of it in the collection. All 189 pages of just glorious Target novelisation that it is. This is a case where both the television story and the Target are just fucking outstanding. I love both iterations of Fury from the Deep. Both are just fantastic, and I just love Fury from the Deep. It's one of my favourite Doctor Who stories of all time. My favourite 60s era Doctor Who story of all time by far. And it's just an absolutely amazing thing to have this in my collection. Paid £40 for this, which is quite a bit for a Target hardback, but not as much as the next one. But yeah, really happy to have this in my collection. Just a fantastic thing to have in the collection. Absolutely great. And now, here it is. The 9th book I'll be showcasing in today's video. And the last book I will be showcasing in Underworld Updates. I have showcased a great deal of books in this series. Times Champion, many Target hardbacks, Campaign, a hyper rare reproduction annual, only 3 copies in existence, the Early Years Deluxe, many Time Hunter books, many Telos novellas, many Lethbridge Stewart books, many rare books, even 24 Big Finish short trip books in my previous instalment of Underworld Updates. And it's all come to a close here with this one book. This was without question my most wanted Doctor Who book of all time. People are probably going to think I'm insane for saying this, but I spent £113 on the book that I'm about to showcase, which I'm just more than happy to spend on, because oh boy, this one means a lot to me. This was my most wanted Doctor Who book of all time. So, for the final book, in the final episode of Underworld Updates, I present to you, ladies and gentle Whovians, a non-X Library W.H. Allen hardback of Doctor Who and the Ice Warriors. Yes, this is a W.H. Allen edition of the book, and a lot of and I know the Wingate hardback is rarer, but I personally didn't mind what edition of the book that I got was. Personally, I just really wanted the book. I think preferably I wanted a Wingate, but I'm just happy to have this in the collection. And arguably, this being a non-X library, this is even rarer than a Wingate, arguably, of the Ice Warriors. But yeah, absolutely over the moon to have this book in the collection. And the 2011, 2010, 2012 Target reprint of this book is what canoned my love for Doctor Who books. Back in Easter 2014, it was a reading of that very Doctor Who book, which I still have in my collection, that exploded and ignited my love for Doctor Who books. So because of that reason, my most wanted book ever was a Doctor Who and the Ice Warriors Target hardback. I didn't really mind what edition it was, a Wingate or a W.H. Allen, but I am just flipping over the moon to have this. And as I said, arguably, with this being a non-X library, this is arguably even rarer than a Wingate edition of the book. Like this, I just cannot express my joy to have this book in the collection. This just means the absolute world to me, and this is probably one of the key jewels in my entire 1960s era collection, and itself sort of forms a holy trinity of Target hardback books in the collection. I have a non-X library W.H. Allen hardback of The Mind Robber as well, which was the very first 1960s era story I ever experienced. I also have a non-X library W.H. Allen hardback of Fury from the Deep, which is my favourite 60s era Doctor Who story of all time. And now I have this, a non-X library W.H. Allen hardback of what was the very first Doctor Who book I ever read in my collection. And what started my love for Doctor Who books as a whole. Just absolutely fantastic to have this book in my collection, and I think this is one hell of a way to end this series. So like, favorite, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Pitch Girl Black, dematerializing.